Well, Tennessee now joins Florida, becoming the second state in the country to pass a new law giving prosecutors the option to seek the death penalty for convicted child rapists. That new law goes into effect today, but it won't be carried out anytime soon because the governor's moratorium is still in place, putting a pause on state executions. Tennessee's oldest death row inmate, Oscar Smith, who was 72 at the time, woke up Thursday, April 21st, 2022, thinking it would be his last. He was preparing to order his final meal and face the execution for the 1989 murders of his wife and 2 children. It was the first of 5 executions scheduled that year, but while receiving communion just moments before his 7 p.m. execution, Governor Bill Lee called the whole thing off, issuing a death penalty moratorium and launching a third-party review and investigation into lethal injection protocols and procedures, after learning the Department of Corrections did not conduct required testing of the drugs.
This was a very appropriate thing for Governor Lee to do, and I don't think those questions have been resolved yet. Until they do resolve those questions, I wouldn't expect to see executions resume.
Tennessee death row inmates sued the state. Court records revealed noncompliance in lethal injection protocols, from the manufacturing of the drugs in the pharmacy to testing procedures and storage and handling within the department. It led to concerns over botched executions.
What we know is that many of these executions resulted in unusual pain and suffering for the person who was being executed. And that's something that is absolutely unconstitutional under our current law.
While executions remain on hold, a new law now in effect makes sure convicted child rapists are eligible to receive the ultimate punishment, but it's attached to controversy.
It's a victory for all Tennesseans because it will act as a deterrent, and hopefully anyone who would stoop to that level and commit such a horrible, heinous crime will think better of it, knowing that they could ultimately be subject to the death penalty.
First of all, we know that death penalty is not a deterrent to crimes. It's just absolutely not. It has never been a deterrent. The reality is we are re-traumatizing victims when we subject them to appeal after appeal after appeal. These folks will be off the streets for life.
Tennessee now joins Florida as the only 2 states that can sentence convicted child rapists to death. Florida criminal defense attorney Mark O'Mara, best known for his role in the Trayvon Martin case, is opposed to the new law for many reasons.
And I'll give you an example. In Florida, the Florida Supreme Court spends more than a third of their time, sometimes as much as half of their time, on death penalty issues. So now, if you look at it that way and take half of the entire budget of the Florida Supreme Court and assign it over to death penalty work, which is what they have to do, it's an enormous amount of taxpayer burden.
Opponents say a life in prison sentence is more suitable and affordable. O'Mara says it costs taxpayers approximately $20,000 per inmate per year. The average length of a life sentence is roughly 40 years, so an average life sentence adds up to about $800,000 per inmate. If it's a death row inmate, that cost goes up exponentially. After you factor in the cost of the appeals process, it comes out to anywhere between $7 and $12 million per inmate. Those that helped pass this law say it's worth every penny.
It's a victory for Tennessee, and it's certainly a victory for victims of these horrific crimes.